Adventurous, generous, helpful, loyal, knowledgeable, funny, rebellious and loving is just to name a few. Over his lifetime, Martin was really adventurous. He left Ireland around age 13 and his dad Bill and was later joined by his brothers Kevin and Michael at around age, and as Dad always said, they were economic refugees because there was little work at home. He always said he loved England too from the minute he arrived because he could see all the opportunities for a better life. He worked all over England, particularly in the north, building factories and big chimneys, all the while staying in digs and sending money home to his family. At age 38, we emigrated to Perth, a big move with a wife and 4 kids at that age. Although he loved Ireland and England so much, he also fell in love with Australia, especially Perth. He loved the sun, the sand, the fishing, the ocean so much he decided to raise the family here. When he was 17, he met my mum in Manchester at the cinema and they married in Hyde in 1960. They even honeymooned in Ireland for 6 weeks on his motorbike. We laughed when Mum told us she would hold up the umbrella at the back of the bike as they were zooming along. He was a teddy boy at the time. He had the DA haircut, sharply dressed, and they both loved dancing and driving in particular. This continued on at the Catholic club days in Luton, with all us kids in tow and all the family. Friday nights were the best. It always ended up with us kids shouting Shalimar, that was the local Indian, all the way home where we'd end up going in for a feed. Over the years he would hop on a plane, train or car and he would be off. He had worked and visited most of the northwest of WA. One time he headed off to Karratha to visit Lena and Gavin, sleeping on the slab of their caravan site under a mosquito net. He also holidayed in far north Queensland and Sydney a few times, then back and forth to Ireland, England, Europe and Asia, even in his wheelie walker. Over the years he would hop on a plane. He even loved zooming around on his motorised red Gopher. Not long after he got it, Lena, Pauline and I followed him one evening from Harrison Street, behind him in the car like 3 little detectives, just to make sure he was safe. Lo and behold, we saw him speeding along the Nollamara shop front and like lightning across the road to the park with Aldo, his loyal pooch, in tow. We were all beside ourselves with worry, and then the sunshade fell off the back of the Gopher because he was going so fast, but he didn't even notice it was gone. So all 3 of us girls screeched to a halt, go running down the hill, and when we finally caught up with him, we put the sunshade back on and told him to take it easy. Suffice to say, many times I'd get messages from my friends who lived locally telling me they saw him flying along at high speed like Santa on his sleigh. Generous was another word for Dad, always helping us out, slipping us $50 here and there, paying for good school reports, swimming medals, or for the fair or the Royal Show. He was always keeping the biscuit barrel full and packets of Tim Tams on tap for the grandkids, but believe it or not, he would give our Lena the last bite every time. He often insisted on taking Patrick or Joseph or any of the kids here in England and Ireland to the fair, and he would spoil them rotten. He'd take them on the motorbikes, he'd keep them out past their bedtime and bring them home looking like gypsies, their hair, face and clothes covered in dirt, candy floss, toffee apples, red or brown sauce, completely exhausted but happy as Larry. He was knowledgeable. There was rarely a topic he didn't know intimately, and if he didn't know, he'd learn about it quick smart. He had such a thirst for knowledge his whole life, and although he left school around 9 years old to help out on the farm in Galway, he was still as sharp as a whip and brilliant at maths, spelling and history. Our memories of childhood was often trying to beat him while we were watching various game show minds like Mastermind, Sale of the Century and the Generation Game. Funny, there was a million stories we could tell you about Dad that had us all in stitches, but this one Lena particularly wanted to share. Some of you might think it's inappropriate. Oh God, this is for
they
today.
Want to hear it.
But we thought it was hysterical. and political correctness was never in our dad's vocabulary, so we're going to tell it anyway. A few years back, do I really should say this? We were taking him to have a colonoscopy procedure, and on the way there, a radio ad came on for anal bleaching, of all things. Dad had never heard of it, of course, and asked what the hell is that, so Lena had to explain what it was, and no more was said. But needless to say, the nurses were in hysterics when Lena collected him later that day, because of course just before they knocked him out, he asked if they offered that procedure while they were at it. Loyal. Dad was a loyal friend to many, especially to his family. We all know his bark was worse than his bite, and we all got put in our place once or twice, but he was quick to forgive and forget, especially with those he loved. He missed his own mum so badly after his dad died, and his dad after they died. So when he got the chance to go back to Dublin during the Celtic Tiger, when there was plenty of work and money to be made, he jumped on board and headed back to 449 Collins Avenue, Whitehall. He was only supposed to go home for 6 months, but ended up staying 5 years on and off, and he got to spend quality time with Nanny Duggan and doted on her till the day she died. Helpful. Dad would always be giving a helping hand to anyone, whether they were strangers, friends or family, of course. It could be knocking up a barbecue, laying brick paving, a garden wall or a fireplace. He was always keen to help. He was often giving someone a lift, a loan of his car or trailer, or helping move house. He also gave the start to anyone who needed a job, a local, a refugee or someone new to Perth. Especially if they were down on their luck, he would always give them a chance. But he didn't suffer fools easily and had no issue telling someone what was on his mind. For instance, our Eugene said his classic line at work when he was sacking someone was, "I don't know what we're going to do without you, but as of today we're going to find out." Rebellious. Although Dad was a pacifist at heart, he had rebellious blood in him. He loved to see the underdog win or hear about a rags to riches story. He loved the fire in people's belly, those who stood their ground for a worthy cause. He loved it even when a toddler was being cheeky, so he'd wind them up a bit more. Even growing up, when we'd get into trouble at school, he would have a glint of pride in his eye if we stood our ground. He was nicknamed Bad Santa because he really was a very kind-hearted rebel. But the most word that resonates with us is the most love. Is love. One of our favourite memories of Dad was in Millfield Road in Luton on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. He'd be lying on the couch like that, watching Match of the Day or Grandstand, so Pauline and I would pamper him by getting out a bowl of hot water, the shaving cream, flannels and towels, and the Old Spice we bought him every Christmas. We would put the hot flannels on his face, shave him, splash on the aftershave, and then give him a manicure. And we felt he needed it because he worked so hard. Fast forward to the past few years, and especially after our mum Alba passed away, we pampered and preened him like the king he was to us. He wasn't left alone in the hospital in the last 2 weeks of his life, and he was surrounded by pure love from all his family. Finally, we always had love, and we always felt it, and we gave it back from the beginning to the end. Dad, we love you with all our hearts and will never stop loving you. Go safely on your journey. There's a whole cosmos to build now. Go be with Mum and rest in peace. Love from Eugene, Pauline, Jenny and Lena, and obviously everybody here.
Thank you.
Thank you.